Welcome back to Test Flight. This week we're going all passenger-y because we're going to be flying Concorde. Please join us. Welcome to the runway for the first of our Concordes this week. This one is the BAC Concorde from the Sauciest Boss. The link is down below. This is, I believe, the first passenger craft we've looked at. I'll have to go back on the series. So this is an interesting one. Concorde, a collaboration between Aerospatiale of France and BAC of the UK. It was planned to be the first ever Mach 2 passenger plane. I believe it was actually supposed to be the first faster than sound passenger plane as well. I think it actually got that title, although there is some debate. So it had a very long life. It started first flight I think in 1969, and it ran into 2000s for its actual longevity. Only really flown by the French and the British. Originally it had all sorts of interest by other nations. It never really, shall we say, took off. The idea of supersonic flight was a dream, but it never really took off. So we're just going to turn it around a bit. So this is the BAC Concorde by the Saucy Boss. It's a very slow to turn craft, which you'd expect. It's a passenger plane. Concorde was not renowned for its ability to be mobile and agile. It was not a fighter, even though it looks a bit like it could be. Concorde, I always think, had that look of just difference. It was just stunning, and I think this has captured it quite well. You can see there the four engines on the back there, the uniquely sort of Concorde intakes on the intakes. Yeah, it's a beautiful craft. This isn't a fighter craft. It's not going to fly beautifully, and interestingly, it's diving into the water, and I'm going to try and pull up, but I have a horrible feeling this is not going to work. We're going to cut the grass. It's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. Yeah, look at that. So this flies as you'd expect a passenger plane to fly. Interestingly, it doesn't have a sort of drop nose function. You'll see the nose is sort of dropped a little bit. Concorde was renowned for its sort of landing because it came in with very sort of steep angle of attack, as it were, on landing. Basically because of the delta wing and the way it was designed for high speed flight, and so they had to land very sort of nose up. And oh, we've lost an engine, and yeah, a bit like this. This is probably, the angle would be about there. That's about the angle that it would probably do. This is going to crash horribly. Oh, there we go. Oh well. So yeah, so I will say it's a lovely recreation. It looks really sort of, I would say, tasty. Looks tasty. I always think, yeah, the front nose wheel on the Concorde, I think, always looked really long and gangly, and this has really captured that. It looks out there on its own. Obviously, we've got bits missing now, but you can see it's just a beautiful craft. So let's try another one. Right, so we now have a very different looking version of Concorde. You can see they've focused on the wings, the fact that it's a passenger craft, so they give it all that passenger capability. Big engines. They've used the standard Kerbal sort of intake, so it's not quite the sort of Concorde shape, but it's close to. But the wings are very big. I don't know if Concorde had wings quite as big for its body size. I think maybe the body needs to be a bit enlarged, shall we say. We're getting up to quite a speed before it's going to take off. It will not go up. I cannot get it to go up. This is not going up. You can see I've got pitch authority on maximum now, and it's gonna just, there we go. Oh, this thing does not like this one does not like taking off, so yeah, get on the graphs and drive around. So you can see, again, the really sort of pointed nose, the arrow-like sort of appearance of Concorde. It was very much an arrow. If you compare it to things like the 747 at the time, which was a big bulbous sort of whale of a craft, Concorde was fast and sleek and beautiful, and this one is fast as well. I do not like the wheel there. That little pod for the wheel at the front there really is quite off-putting. I'll put my mouse on it so you can see that there. That's just, yeah, it's a bit weird. But the rest of it's quite nice. You'll notice they've used a fairing. A lot of people seem to have used fairings to make the nose sections. The tail is this odd sort of set-back tail with the fin on the top. The wings, I'm not sure about the shape of the wings, to be honest. But we'll give it a go. So let's turn and burn. We're going at full power. So Concorde was planned to be a passenger craft and fly at twice the speed of sound. It could actually do 2.04 or Mach 2.04, shall we say, which was about for Europeans about 2,180 kilometers an hour. For Americans or anybody following Imperial or Freedom or whatever you want to call it, it was about 1,354 miles per hour. So it was a fast little craft. It was born out of desire to be the best, basically. I think would be the view. It was technology sort of demonstrated. It was an idea, aspirational more than anything else. Concorde was aspirational. It's this idea of flight becoming key, and ironically, the reason that Concorde was built was very much accurate. People, the idea of increased flight as time was going to go on, and the changing population was quite accurate. What they didn't get was that people were quite happy to fly on a big jumbo jet for 7 hours instead of cross the Atlantic in 3, sort of thing. So that was a problem. Concorde could only carry about between 92 and 128 passengers, so it wasn't able to compete on volume, but it was able to compete on speed, and that's what it went for. As a child growing up in the UK, you aspired to someday fly Concorde, and unfortunately I never have. I never will, because in 2003 it ceased operation, which I think is sad. However, if you're interested in why, please go and Google it. It's actually quite interesting. There was a number of there was actually, I believe, 2 accidents, or at least 2 accidents, which have sort of caused its downfall. This one, I believe, is going to crash. This is going to be a bad landing, I think. I don't know. So this craft, anyway, let's talk about it. It is quite nice in the air. Let's give it a bit of thrust. It's quite nice in the air, but I'm not entirely sure that it's taking off and everything is great. You see there, we've done a break. It's got an interesting tail wheel thing there. I'm assuming to do with landing. I don't believe the Concorde actually had that. I don't really like the sticky down wheel at the front. It's very, very narrow. I think Concorde was narrow, but I don't think it was quite this narrow, so it might be a bit over the top. But it's a very nice craft. Give it a go. Compared to the previous one, in the air it's much more maneuverable, but taking off is a nightmare. Possibly you might want to improve some of the sort of control surface on the back there. Give it a bit more control, just for Kerbal, because Concorde probably was actually quite difficult to take off and land with. So let us move on to another one. Right, so now we're taking off in Concorde by a random lantern, and we're inside because I find the outside, well, I'll show you if I can take off. There we go. We'll just do that. Let's go outside. Yeah, what's happened? It's got its nose down as if it's about to land, but the other thing is, it just doesn't look right, does it? There's just something wrong with it, I think. The engines look cool, but they're not quite right. They're sort of set into boxes that are just not quite right. The whole craft just feels a bit wrong, but how does it handle? It handles okay. We'll see what it's like for landing, but yeah, it just doesn't really do it for me. Now, that's not to say that Concorde couldn't have looked like this. Concorde went through vast iterations and design. Remember, this was built before the sort of advent of computer fluid modelings and all sorts of fluid dynamic understandings that we now use, like in F1 even. Private companies have this sort of technology as opposed to everybody else. But yeah, Concorde was a time before that. Let's see if we can pull up. Does it want to? It keeps jarring to one side when you're pulling up, which is a bit interesting. Get the gears down just in case. So yeah, and so they made so much. What is going on with the tail? That's interesting. See, this just looks ugly, doesn't it? Ugh. Does not. It's got the bits that say that it's Concorde, but it just doesn't quite do it for me. It doesn't say I am Concorde. I'm going to run out of road in a minute, but that's all right. Let's try and level it out. Yeah, I want to like this craft. It is quite maneuverable, and it's good to, I feel it's going to be a good landing craft. But can it do a turn? Yeah, look, it's, I actually think it's probably the best maneuvering that we've had, although I don't believe Concorde ever did this, because that would be crazy. We'll do this, and a little bit of that, and we'll cut the engines, and then we'll try and land this way. You know, let's put the brakes on before we even land. We're going to come down steep, and then we're going to just flare at the last second. We're not going to flare at the last second because I can't figure out where the ground is. There we go. Oh, let's just get down. Just get down. Get the wheels down. There we go. Brilliant. Get the brakes on. Slow down. Wonderful. Yeah, so it's a maneuverable craft, but it just doesn't really look right, does it? I mean, ooh, let's clip ground there. The engines, I just no. And this tail just feels all wrong to me. I don't know why that tail feels wrong. For some reason, I've always got an image of the tail upwards, but maybe that's just me being wrong. I'd actually have to have a look at the pictures. The drop nose, that would only have been used during landing, and normally it was upright. So it's almost like they've taken a picture of the craft landing and actually recreated it. I don't know. But it's a nice to fly craft. So that is the Concorde by A Random Lantern. Links down below. Right, let's go into something that's got more K in it than C, shall we? Let's try another one. Right, here we are with Concorde with 2 Ks, so KonKorde, and this is by PapaBullDust. And this is quite a nice little craft, actually, if I do say so myself. Just pull it up. Whoa, okay, maybe put some SAS on that. Wee. It's very responsive compared to the others, that's good. We've yet again got this sticky down bit at the front. I think that's because people wanted to have a specific angle, so they're putting the landing gear up like that. It's a pity because it spoils the line. I think the wings are probably, the rake is starting too early or is too extreme, but it's very maneuverable. It's a very maneuverable craft. I mean, if it was a fighter, okay, aerodynamics are special. Okay, let's just see if we can. Let's get. There we go. Right, let's do that. Oof, that's yeah. Concorde never did that. Although we won't talk about its ending, its career, shall we say? So, it's got air brakes on this, I see. So, Concorde was a joint venture by Sud Aviation, which later became Aerospatiale, and the British Aircraft Corporation, or BAC, and it was actually put together under the Anglo-French treaty. Only 20 craft were built, and that includes all the prototypes and everything like that. There was hope that it would actually be bought by a large number of different organisations, but that never happened. That never panned out. The market just really wasn't there for it, I think. The Boeing 747 basically killed it, I think, because of its high capacity, and we've gone for a little spin again. That's good. It's we do like to do that, don't we? This craft is, you know what, don't turn it too quickly, is I think the piece of information I have now learnt. Let's just do that. It's going to dive, is it? Are we going to go forward? It'd be nice if I could go somewhere. Just head somewhere. Where am I going? I feel as though there is a problem with the aerodynamics of this. What is going on? Okay, we has got a glitch. Right. So we're falling, but I'm not going forward or backwards. There's no sort of... You know what? Let's just do that. If I'm falling, I might as well fall this way. There we go. Come on. There we go. Come on. There we go. Right. Gotcha. Right. Better. It was a bit of a fight, wasn't it? Right, let's try just turning ever so carefully around, because I don't know where the KSC is. There it is. So, there were a number of prototypes developed and tested before the final craft came into production. Interestingly, the plan was for other nations to buy them, and there was a requirement for the national carriers for France and the UK to actually purchase them. It was an expectation, so they put bids in, obviously. But the orders basically dried up. No sort of external sources ended up buying them. For a number of reasons. There was concern over, the economy aspect of it. Not many passengers, lots of fuel, and so forth. Why do people would travel cheaper and take longer? They prefer to take longer on a plane. But also, particularly as you've heard through this so far. The noise and the difficulty landing and things like that, but primarily the noise. Supersonic craft, it was a noise thing. You couldn't fly supersonic over other countries. It was deemed as a problem. So it actually limited its use, which meant that it actually ended up. Okay, this is very twitchy. It meant it was basically oceanic journeys, which was what it was used for, which is predominantly things like the. Let's put the brakes on, I think. We're going to go down it. We're going to go in the water. Wait, no, we've got tail brake. Wonderful. So it's used primarily for the transatlantic crossings and some other flights as well. But the Heathrow to New York flight became its sort of common popular route for British Airways, and equivalent, Paris to New York and places again became populated by Concorde. It never became what it was dreamed to be, which was the go everywhere, see everything craft, which is really sad. But there we go. That's the Concorde with a K. Let us move on. Right, you find us firing up the Concorde by servo, links down below. This supposedly has the ability to droop the nose. We will maybe try that later. I don't know if it will work or not, we'll see. But you can see it is beautiful. Look at the curve of that wing. That wing took so much work. It was a piece of pride for the British and the French, that wing. Interestingly, potentially copied by KonKorde or the Tupolev craft that was similar. So look at that, it's taken off without me touching the controls. Isn't that amazing? So we'll just lift the gear up, put it away, and we're flying. And it is doing so beautifully, isn't it? Absolutely stunning. I think this is a stunning replica of the craft. You can see it is lovely. You can see there's a lot of work around the nose there with the fairings and so forth. Supposedly you're not supposed to try and deploy the nose during flight due to drag on the fairing, but we could try it. I mean, supposedly one does something, so let's try one. What does one do? Has it done anything? I don't see the nose moving. RCS does something? Oh, no, RCS is doing something, but it's sort of moving the whole craft down. That's interesting. So I think that isn't working. It might be a Kerbal issue, it might be a version issue, I don't know, it might be something that's changed since this was created. So, let us try and do a bit of fly. Whoa, okay, that's bad. Uh-oh, ooh, ow, each, ooch, ooh. Well, I think we can agree that that could have gone better. That's nice, we can get to see inside, so you got these bits. What's this? This is a really long girder seg. I've got girder segments running down the centre of it with the lumps on the side to look like windows. That's nice. So the aerodynamics on this are probably all over the place. Oh, there we go. Are we going to survive a crash? We're doing 26. Oh dear. Well, the nose survived. Right. Anyway, that was the Concorde by servo. Huge number of parts. What I would recommend is give it a go. You can see it's got some parts that are actually quite recently modern, so that it should be usable. It supposedly has a nose functionality. It's a beautiful craft, so definitely give that a go if you have a choice. Now let's get on to our last craft. Welcome to the cockpit of our final craft for today's episode. So this is Concorde full release by TimosUniverse. Just like Concorde, this will be the end of our story, as it were. Concorde was basically ended in 2003. It was announced by British Airways and Air France simultaneously that it would be retired later the year. They blamed basically the September 11th attacks and the fact that actually the craft was getting old. While it was advanced tech in the 1970s or in the 1960s when it was put out there. Oh dear. Well, that could have gone better. Let us try that again. Right, so as I was saying, we'll try taking off this time from outside of the cockpit. We've got it's quite a nice craft, this actually. Let's talk about this craft first of all. It's got some odd situation with engines on the front there. I don't really understand the the engines in this cowling area pointing forward, so they're firing forward, and you've got some firing backwards. I'm not entirely sure what's that about. Action groups that were not detailed. So action group 3 stops them from firing forwards. That might improve. So we've got reverse thrust with a 3 and a 1. That's an interesting combination. So let's try taking off now. Right. So it takes off okay. We don't want a repeat of past Concorde problems. So, as I was saying, Concorde was basically cancelled, or ended, retired, because, or it was blamed because of falling passenger numbers more than anything else. Because it was deemed after September the 11th that passengers just were happier, first class passengers were just as happy flying on large, slow haul, long haul flights than they were going by Concorde. There was also the problem that the craft was getting old. It was sort of put into service in the early 70s, late 60s. It was technology that was really advanced at its time, but as with anything, 30, 40 years down the line, it no longer was. And so it was, for example, its cockpit was analog, which, at the time you had fly-by-wire technology with Airbus, and Airbus was actually providing the spare parts for a lot of Concorde at that time. So for them, it was sort of a legacy that they were having to deal with, and it was costing them money, a lot of money, to actually maintain it. Equally, and there's debate about this, there's a view that Concorde never really actually made money. It basically just broke even. It was more of a landmark, iconic craft than anything else, and that's why they basically kept it running. There was talk by Richard Branson and people like that of who was the Virgin Atlantic founder, of actually taking them on and flying them with Virgin. I don't know how far that went, but it would have been interesting. I think he liked the idea of the craft basically being a landmark for him and being that sort of that image creator. This is a nice craft. I as long as you remember to action group the engines, which I don't believe are in the instructions, but you can check the instructions. I obviously haven't read them properly. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Put the brakes on, see if that helps. We'll just pop it down, let it land. There we go. It is actually a very balanced craft. It's stable, as you saw. Even when crashing off the runway, parts of it survived, so it's safe-ish. Yeah. So, unfortunately, Concorde is no longer with us. It has its landmarks. It will always have a place in the hearts of the British and the French, I'm sure. It also had an ugly sister, shall we say, that we may look at in the future. So, from me, from Concorde, until next time, have a great one.